To become an immortal, there are many risks. Many paths will lead you to deception and pain. But for those who stand in your way and betray you, their day of reckoning will come. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. WWE Day of Reckoning.
And welcome back to Retro Wrestling Games Presents. I'm your host, Juan Cena, and with me, as always, is Luke Martin. How you doing tonight, Luke?
I'm tired.
Well, wake your ass up. Take a Red Bull, take a 5-hour energy, do what you gotta do. Because on this episode, we're gonna take a look at Day of Reckoning for the Nintendo GameCube. Now, Day of Reckoning was released in 2004. It was published by THQ and developed by Ukes. This is the first of this particular series. Again, it's a pseudo sequel to Wrestlemania 19. Just a hell of a lot better. Right off the bat, again, the controls are very similar to the Aki N64 games. Again, if you know how to play that, you know how to play this. Overall, the graphics, pretty good, pretty solid for the time, especially for Nintendo GameCube. Again, it wasn't the most powerful console out at the time. And this harkens back to a time where we had console-exclusive wrestling games. Now, their PlayStation 2 had the SmackDown series, Xbox had Raw, and now GameCube has Day of Reckoning. Again, this is a really big upgrade from the prior game. Right off the bat, the story mode here is phenomenal. I mean, it's very linear, but it's a hell of a lot better than what we have today. Your creative wrestler starts out on Sunday Night Heat, and they get a choice either to choose Raw and join Triple H's Evolution stable, or join SmackDown and join The Undertaker's new ministry. Your superstar works his way up the ladder in a series of matches, and at that point, you get to the point where you would become the world champion, but before the match starts, someone steals the belt. Now, you get fired off for Raw and SmackDown, and you go from there. And eventually, you find out, who steals the belt. So there's a running storyline about that, who set you up. And finally, at the end, you get to wrestle for the championship at Wrestlemania 20. So again, overall, this game is pretty solid. Looking at the scores that came out during the time, Metacritic had a 79 out of 100. Game Informer had an 8.25 out of 10. GamePro had it at 4 3/4 stars. GameSpot had it at 8.2 out of 10. GameSpot had it at 4 stars. XPlay had it at 4 stars. So I think overall, this game got, was pretty acclaimed when it came out. Unfortunately, no one fucking played it because no one had a fucking GameCube. Did you know anyone that had a GameCube? And if you did know a person that had a GameCube, were they weird?
Actually, my best friend that I've known since I was young.
You don't have any friends.
I mean, allegedly friends. No, I've known this guy like my whole life, but he did. He had a GameCube, and we would always play wrestling games on it. So we would go out and rent them. Because this was way back in the day when you had to go and rent games. It's like the year I graduated high school. I remember playing this game. Though, I will say, Day of Reckoning is a weird-ass name for a wrestling game.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be named after a pay-per-view or what have you, but there was no, WWE pay-per-view with the name Day of Reckoning. Although, perhaps, they were thinking that there were going to be one, and it just didn't come to fruition for whatever reason. Yeah, who knows? But I think when you look at this game, definitely the visuals are definitely an upgrade to WrestleMania 19. It's probably on par with SmackDown 2, I would say, in my humble opinion. Again, the controls are solid. Again, you're working with a GameCube controller here, guys. So, if you're used to playing with Xbox controller or the PlayStation controller, there's gonna be, a learning curve for you because it just feels funny in your hands. I can't really explain it. It just does. It makes weird clicking noises when you press the L and R buttons too. It's fucking weird. Well, mine is black because I'm not a weirdo.
I can't.
Yes, the original GameCube did come in purple, and it has a handle for some reason. It's freaking weird. In terms of the roster, you had Kurt Angle, The Undertaker, John Cena, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Big Show, Charlie Haas, Chavo Guerrero, Hardcore Holly, Rhino, Doug Basham, Danny Basham, Booker T, RVD, Mark Jindrak, The Rock, Triple H, Trish Jericho, Kane, Randy Orton, Shawn Michaels, Christian, Val Venus, Garrison Cade, Batista, Matt Hardy, Ric Flair, Chris Benoit, Lance Storm, Shelton Benjamin, Edge, Molly Holly, Victoria, Trish, Stacy, Andre the Giant, Bret Hart, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Roddy Piper, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and there's some playable characters as well. Mike Chioda, the referee, Paul Heyman, Coach, Eric Bischoff, and Vince McMahon. So again, a pretty solid roster. Again, not as big as the roster you would see nowadays. Those are maybe too large, perhaps. Those rosters are big. Like, do you really actually play as all the wrestlers that are on those rosters? Probably not. Most people I know just play creative wrestlers, and that's about it. This game, Day of Reckoning has a quality creative wrestler mode. Pretty good. And it does have unlockables as you progress through the game. So whether it be, new moves or new clothing for your wrestler, or I think the wrestlers, the legends themselves are unlockable as well. I think overall it's pretty solid. Again, it's closer to like a Raw versus SmackDown than say like a SmackDown 1. You can see the transitioning there. This is like like they're getting towards that. They're going towards that, and I think it's really clear in this particular game. Again, a lot of people felt at the time that the wrestling games on the GameCube were just an afterthought of SmackDown. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna put all our eggs in the SmackDown basket, and then the rest of the games you're gonna like, okay. But to be honest, those Xbox Raw games are pretty good too. So overall, I give this game a thumbs up here. Quality for 2004. I mean, it's hard to compare different eras, but obviously it's I think it's a little bit above average, mediocre like the games today are. I mean, I don't know. What was the last good WWE game with 13? Can we say 13? 16. You like 16? Okay.
Yeah.
I like 16.
But that was on the creative wrestling mode.
I like 13. I like 13, and then like 14. 15 was alright. 16, I have a lot of experience playing 16. So.
Yeah, I like 16. 17 was garbage. 18, also garbage.
I just missed when you can import your own music.
Yeah, that was cool. I don't know why they stopped allowing you to do that.
There's licensing issues or something. I don't fucking know.
Who knows? There's always something.
Now, when this game was released, again, the final stage of this game is Wrestlemania 20. And we're going to talk a lot about Wrestlemania 20 and some of the things that may come up from that conversation. Again, guys, I know someone brought this out on the comment section of our last video, is that, hey, we did 5% of the review, or we talked about the game, and then the other 95% was about something else. And the reason why I chose it to be that particular way, and that's on purpose, is that in reality, when you talk about wrestling games, you can probably get about 7 or 8. If you really drag it on, probably 12 minutes on a in-depth review. And there's 1,000 channels that already do that already, so you're covered. But I want to give you guys more of an insight of, my thoughts, our feelings about the game, and then a auxiliary topic kind of really flesh out. Because I don't think in 10 to 12 minutes, there's not enough gameplay footage for you guys to watch that I would feel acceptable. So that's why these videos are longer than most reviews, and that's why we talk about other topics on this review. So I just want to make sure that we're clear about that, and we're not misleading in any way. So that's exactly what we do here. Again, we're on a mission and on a journey to take a look at every single wrestling game ever. We're gonna go deep, guys. We're gonna go super. We're gonna go to Amiga. We're going to look at some 3DO games. We're going to look at some Neo Geo games, PC games. If I can figure out a way to record Tiger Electronic games and those games that you can play on your watch, once I figure that out, we're going to take a look at those too. Because what the hell?
What about Extreme Warfare Revenge?
I've been thinking about doing that. That's definitely something that we can do. The booking simulator, guys, if you never played Extreme Warfare Revenge, it's a pretty sweet game. I spent a lot of the early 2000s into about 2000, 7 playing that game pretty regularly. So, yeah, absolutely.
True.
We're gonna take a look at that. Probably gonna take a look at both of them because there's 2 games. There's Extreme Warfare Revenge and there's Total Warfare Wrestling, Total Warfare, or Total something like that. Total Warfare Wrestling.
But that costs money. The other one doesn't.
But again, like I was saying before, game takes place around WrestleMania 20, and lo and behold, I was at WrestleMania 20. I was in the 7th row, ringside. My seat was closest to the aisle. If you go back and take a look at WrestleMania 20 on the WWE Network, you will see me there. There's a part where they have all the Hall of Fame inductees out. They do it every WrestleMania. And they announce all the newest Hall of Fame inductees. And there's a part where they announce Sergeant Slaughter that you will see me. Yes, me saluting Sergeant Slaughter. So that's what I make my WrestleMania debut. But yeah, man, that was a crazy trip, man. I remember trying to get the tickets online. Again, this is it's 2004-ish. Right? Yeah, 2004. Internet is still, it's not what it is now, but it's much better than it has been. And I had to go to Ticketmaster, and I had to be there, and I had to get my pre-order code in, and I kept hitting refresh to get seats because it sold out relatively quickly, but I was able to get my seats. I went by myself.
Aww.
And when you sit that close to the ring, you know what you receive? You get to take home a chair. And yes, I still have my WrestleMania 20 chair.
Why'd you get to take home the chair?
Because there was a special commemorative chair with the WrestleMania 20 logos on it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. But you know how weird it was for me to walk down Midtown Manhattan? Because I did actually walk around Midtown Manhattan with my metal folding chair before I got back on the train at Penn Station and take the train back home. I'm on the Long Island Railroad with a chair.
Well, I'm sure that's not the craziest thing people have seen.
No, it's fucking New York City. It's not crazy at all. But that show was very important to me. It was the first WWE show that I went to in about 10 years. And the last one, maybe 12 years. The last one I went to was in 1992. Now, I did go to an ECW show in 1997 that was in Queens, but that was literally the last wrestling shows I went to. And now that I was a pseudo-adult at the time, with my own money, spent a lot of money. I think it was like almost $1,000 in 2004 money. Yeah. Again, people say the prices are expensive today, but imagine WrestleMania today if it took place in a smaller, 20 or 17,000 seat arena. How expensive those tickets would be. When I went to WrestleMania 29, it was $400, and I was I was pretty high up. I spent a lot of money, but it was worth it because it was WrestleMania. I never thought I would get an opportunity to go to WrestleMania. I finally did go to WrestleMania, and it was a big deal for me and my fandom of professional wrestling. I was still watching wrestling regularly at the time. And the reason I stopped watching wrestling regularly was because one of the participants in the main event. Now, the main event of this show was a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship. It was Shawn Michaels taking on Triple H, taking on Chris Benoit. And spoiler alert, it's been a long time, Chris Benoit wins the title. And for me, at the time, Chris Benoit was my favorite wrestler. He's someone I followed from the early 90s. Actually imported tape from Japan to see him wrestle over in Japan. And him winning the championship was like the home team had won the championship. You know what I mean? When your home team finally wins the Super Bowl, when your home team wins a World Series, that's what it felt for a lot of us that was in the crowd that night. And kind of knowing, what happened now, looking back, selfishly, it does taint that experience for me. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Yes, I understand that kids lost their father. I understand that parents lost their daughter and their son, and tragedy of epic proportion. I understand that. But from my own selfish wrestling point of view, it literally tainted his entire career. Where, after that happened, I'm on that fucking show. I have not watched that show since what happened. And it is emotional. And it's, it's seeing your favorite baseball player, do something that's so heinous and so fucked up. And it just, it hurt my fandom. And I was there's literally not a bigger wrestling fan in the world than me. At least I thought. And when that happened, a couple of things. I just had my son too, so I'm a new father. You know, my son is not even a year old, and I couldn't fathom how someone could do that to their own child. And the thing that sticks in my mind when I think about that event wasn't all the great matches they had on that show, and they did have some really good matches on that show. It wasn't the main event. It was what happened after the cameras cut off. You're not able to see this, but the last thing you see in WrestleMania 20 is Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit with their belts, right? They both won the world championships, right? What you don't see is that you see Nancy and Daniel come out, and they celebrate in the ring with Chris Benoit. And knowing, what happened, like, it literally breaks my heart. It literally breaks my heart. Now, I was following the events of the Benoit murders very closely when it happened. I was super excited because my new favorite wrestler, CM Punk, was going to take on Chris Benoit for the ECW World Championship at that pay-per-view. As you guys should all know, Chris Benoit doesn't show up for that pay-per-view. Everyone's wondering what's happening. And I was one of those guys who were on Wikipedia that night, watching Wikipedia literally change in real time. First it said that his wife was murdered. Then it said, they were both murdered by a burglar or someone who broke into the house. And I'm watching this happening, and wrestling news back then wasn't like it is today. Now, we would have got real-time updates on Twitter or on Facebook nowadays. But I had to rely on some of these sites that historically have not been accurate. And a lot of them were clickbaity at the time. And there were some even wrestling websites that you would go on their websites and they would give you viruses. It was like, oh, now I have pop-ups. I had one virus that it would look like cockroaches all over my screen. It was fucking fucked up. But so you're trying to keep up with the information, and then it started trickling over the news. And then that Monday is when they had the Benoit tribute show. And we still think that someone came in and killed him. And then right after that show ended, we find out that he was the one who killed him. And he committed suicide. And for me, it really hurt my wrestling fandom. I haven't watched wrestling the same way ever since. Where before that, I was watching, at the very least, Raw every week, if not Raw and SmackDown every week. And after that, if I skip 6 weeks of Raw, it's fine. I'll follow Raw on the WWE.com. I'll follow Raw on Twitter. You get to see all the highlights anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know how a lot of other people felt at the time. I don't know if it hurt other fans as much as it did me. It might have. I don't know. Those are not discussions that are often had. And those are not discussions that you have on the internet, because someone will troll the shit out of you for expressing those feelings. This happens. I've gone to Ring of Honor shows where people just chant Chris Benoit for no fucking reason. It fucking happens.
Now they do CM Punk.
It was a tragedy of epic proportions. I feel bad for the families involved and the friends and everything. And man, fuck those conspiracy theories. I don't want anyone to hear them. Fuck that shit, man. That's bullshit to me. This is the guy that fucking snapped and killed his family. And he's a piece of shit for doing so. I haven't gone out of my way to watch a Chris Benoit match since. It's hard. Like, you try and you just can't, because it just brings up all those emotions. Again, I'm a young father. I can't even fathom that. My son was like 1 year old. Now I have 2 kids, and I can't even comprehend it. And it's so hard for me. Watching one of your heroes become the ultimate villain, it's very bizarre. That whole weekend was fucking weird as hell too. And Sherry Martel had also passed away that weekend, and they did that angle I think the week before where Vince McMahon blew up in the limo, and that was fucking weird. And then Vince had to come out like, no, I'm not dead. Like, there's some real shit just happened. Oh man, it was rough, man. It was rough. So Luke, what are your thoughts?
It's kind of hard
Even having the conversation is hard.
Well, I mean, it's just there's no way you can't really say much without almost sounding like you're trying to
justify it.
Or excuse something or make an excuse for something heinous. Like, there is no excuse for doing something like that. There might be reasons that added to that, but it still doesn't make it inexcusable. There's no reason why those things happen. But it ended up coming out, had a lot to do with some brain damage and stuff like that, and that stuff that's
and we didn't know a whole lot about that, but nowadays,
right?
Like, we've seen football players commit suicide and gone crazy since then.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not. I mean, even
it's
just
legitimate.
like being in the military and stuff. I mean, it messes you up, and it can, when you're in an environment and it's like you're like an aggressive, like you're just that's just kind of your. That's just what you do, right? You're not an aggressive person, but that's just kind of part of your profession. I don't know. I don't know. It's like when your brain gets damaged, you kind of like, I don't know. You just revert. I don't know. It's almost like you lose like the things that make you who you are, and just kind of are more like unstable, like emotional, like just you don't have control over your emotions. Yeah. So I mean that, and again, there's no way to excuse that or anybody else, anything else like
it's
that.
Impossible. And fuck those guys who are like, oh, Ben Watch should be in the Hall of Fame. No, we shouldn't fucking not.
I mean, there are some things that that are just unforgivable, and there's a lot of bad things. I mean, it's just bad all around. Like, there's nothing from that situation was good. We didn't learn anything, and that's the worst thing I think is because, I mean, beyond the fact that people enjoyed him as a professional wrestler, it's harder because it's not something that anyone really saw coming.
No.
And that's what makes it. It's it'd be like if you had like a really good friend and they did something really awful. There wasn't really any indications, of that, and all of a sudden, that, and then you because it was something that was so subtle and something that you didn't see and something so sudden, it's hard to comp. You know what I'm saying? Because most of the time, if someone they degrade or their behavior changes drastically, things like that, so there's like a progression, but it's when it's just a sudden 0 to 60 kind of thing, it's just harder to process because you don't have that image of that person in your mind. Like, you view them in the way that you saw them, and there's no way to rectify it. So that's it's just sad, and that's just one of those situations where there was nothing good really came out of it, and there wasn't really, we didn't learn anything. Like, it was just a bad situation. There's no real resolution to it. It can't ever be fixed, can't ever be mitigated, and there's no hero. Like, nobody fixed the situation. So it's just really tragic. I don't know, it's just kind of shitty. And it's obviously, as a wrestling fan, it makes it difficult to watch that individual, but at the same time, I mean, that person did that, and there's, that's if their legacy has to suffer, I don't see a problem with that, because whatever they did prior to that point, you can't really come back from that kind of thing. And it doesn't matter what you did professionally or whatever. If you do something like that, it's just you shouldn't be celebrated.
No, not at all.
So I mean, and you can state facts, but you can say, oh, this person was this, but there are things that are bigger than what you do. I don't know. It's just a shitty situation. I mean, it is tough to talk about because there's no. I mean, again, there's nothing that you can really like. Oh, this or that. Nope, nothing. Just bad situation, bad end result, and nothing was learned, except it just hurt a whole lot of people. That family, friends, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it'd be hard enough to lose a friend and someone that you knew, but to have, you can't even really mourn that person, and that just hurts everybody. Like that doesn't, yeah, he killed his wife and his son, but I'm sure her side of the family, you know, they lost a brother-in-law and all. You know, it's how do you hate somebody that you love? It's kind of like one of those things. So, I mean, it's just a bad situation. It's really sad. I mean, there's plenty of podcasts that talk about it, and obviously people that knew him, and they still struggle with it, you know, at some level. So it's a shitty situation. I mean, you know, when something like that happens, it casts a wide net, and somebody that has a lot of influence, it can definitely, you know, hurts different, you know, causes issues on different levels. But at the end of the day, definitely shitty. So
yeah, man, I think overall it's a tough subject to talk about, and you know, and for me, it's those 3 days is so clear in my mind, like they're so vivid. Like I literally remember everything that went on those 3 days, and you know, it's completely insane. And again, very difficult to talk about. Again, it's one of the biggest tragedies in professional wrestling. That and Owen Hart are probably the top two. Probably Owen Hart's probably number one because that was an accident. But yeah, man, I think overall it's just a bad situation. But getting back to WrestleMania 20 in a nutshell, you know, yeah, it took place, you know, live from New York City and our beautiful palatial Madison Square Garden, the home of WrestleMania. To me, one of the things that also stand out from that show was the fucking reaction John Cena got on that show. There wasn't a person in the building booing John Cena. Universally loved at the time. He defeated the Big Show in the opening match for the United States Championship. He won the U.S. belt. This is pre-spinner stuff. It was basically his first major championship. And everyone at the time loved John Cena. Like, they thought his raps were funny. He was edgy. He was cool. Man, he was too cool for school, man. And it's funny to see that transition from WrestleMania 20 to like the more recent WrestleManias where, you know, it's split. You know, it's definitely split. But I think it's split not because people in the audience genuinely don't like him. I think it's split because that's what they think they're supposed to do. It's very much like Roman Reigns currently. I don't think the people in the audience hate Roman Reigns. I think they boo him because they watch it on TV and they see all the other crowds booing him. So they think that's the appropriate response. And that's why they're booing Roman Reigns.
It is fun to boo Roman Reigns.
I'm just saying, if I was an agent, that's what I would tell Vince. They think they're supposed to. That's why they're doing it. You know, in addition, on this show, we saw they had a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match for the World Tag Team Championship. It was Booker T and Rob Van Dam taking on the Dudley Boys and Cade and Jindrak and La Resistance. Remember those guys?
I do.
Good. They weren't any good. Booker T and Rob Van Dam get the win here. Christian defeated Chris Jericho. I believe this was the match that Trish Stratus turned heel in. She turned on Chris Jericho. They were doing this whole thing where Christian and Chris Jericho had a bet to see if Chris Jericho would be able to hook up with Trish Stratus, but then he really fell for Trish Stratus, and then Christian being a dirtbag. It was literally the plot to She's All That, by the way. Which is a great flick, too.
That was such a classy time.
I like that movie. That's a guilty pleasure for me. Next up, we had Evolution, Batista, Randy Orton, and Ric Flair, who defeated The Rock and Sock Connection, Mick Foley and The Rock in a handicap match. This is The Rock's big return. He's been off. Actually, both guys have been off for a while. And this is like their big return back. So nice to see those guys back for WrestleMania. We had Tori Wilson and Sable, who defeated Miss Jackie and Stacy Keibler in a Playboy evening gown match.
Jesus
is right. Man, I wish there was a women's revolution, huh?
Jeez.
Look how far they've come. It's ridiculous. We had a Cruiserweight Open for the Cruiserweight Championship that involved Chavo Guerrero, Akio, Billy Kidman, Funaki, Jamie Noble, Nunzio, Rey Mysterio, Shannon Moore, Tajiri, and Ultimo Dragon. Again, Chavo Guerrero gets the win here. Goldberg defeated Brock Lesnar, and both men got booed out of the building. I was there, booing both men, saying, nah, 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 nah. Na 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 na.
So
Hey.
as bad a match as they say it was.
It was worse.
Like,
it doesn't translate on TV. Like, it was deafening. I've been to a lot of wrestling shows in my life, and I've seen people be booed because they were heels or they did nasty stuff, or like Roman Reigns. I've never seen anything like this. Like, they're just booing both guys. Brock Lesnar, get the fuck out of here. Go play the NFL, you motherfucker. Goldberg, you're a piece of shit. Blah, 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 blah. It was as rough as you can get. At least in the section that I was. I can't speak for everyone else's experience, but yeah, the boos were deafening at this show. Nice to see Steve Austin there. I believe he gave Goldberg a stunner.
somebody's gonna get stunner if Steve Austin.
And everyone cheered for that. So then we had Scotty 2 Hotty Rikishi versus the APA versus the Basham Brothers versus the world's greatest tag team in a fatal 4-way for the WWE Tag Team Championship. That was won by Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty. Victoria defeated Molly Holly in a hair versus title match. That's when they shaved Molly Holly bald. We had Eddie Guerrero, who is currently, at the time, the WWE Champion. He defeated Kurt Angle.
It's a good match.
Did you know that? Eddie Guerrero was the last man to beat Brock Lesnar for a belt in the WWE?
I don't doubt it.
I saw a meme of that, so it must be true. And then we had the return of the Dead Man. This is the Dead Man. Again, Undertaker was the American Badass prior to this. This is the return of the Dead Man. He defeated Kane in a singles match. He's with Paul Bearer. And then
Kane might become the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, right?
Yeah. Good for him.
Go Glenn Jacobs.
Yay. And then, as we talked about the main event, Chris Benoit defeated Triple H and Shawn Michaels by submission. This was a triple threat for the World Heavyweight Championship. I forget why Shawn Michaels was in this match. I think Benoit had won the Royal Rumble, if I'm not mistaken.
He's Mr. WrestleMania.
Good fucking point. He was switched right after the show because he beat Eddie Guerrero for the belt.
Yeah, I just don't know why you messed with Mario Ronaldo. It doesn't make sense.
Now, this show, at the time, it was met with generally, I guess, mixed reaction. I thought the show was good. I know I think overall the show was pretty good.
Well, I mean, if you're there, it's always 20 times better than...
Agreed. But I don't think if I wasn't there, I think the show would have been good. I mean, it's not good as 17, not as good as 18, probably not as good as 19.
Do you think it was better...
Than 21 it was.
Than the last one that we just had? Because I think it probably was.
Yeah. Last WrestleMania wasn't dog shit.
It was pretty...
It was cat shit.
There were some good matches. It's some good things going on, but not a lot.
I'm just happy that they're bringing it back, and I will do my damnedest to be at WrestleMania 35.
Brock Lesnar's the champion. So. Don't worry.
Do you think Roman Reigns will be in the main event for the 5th year in a row?
Oh yeah, he'll lose again. He'll literally take 20 F5.
I wonder who's been in the most main events at WrestleMania.
I wonder who's taken the most F5s in one match, because I'm pretty sure it's Roman.
Yeah, I agree. Which
makes the move look ridiculous. Take out Big Show with this, but Roman takes 6 of them, or 5, or whatever. That was the... You know what I said when that ended this year? I said, what the fuck was that for? Because I couldn't figure out why Roman Reigns didn't win.
Well, do you think that was bad, or the finish to the Greatest Royal Rumble?
I didn't. You know what? After WrestleMania, I just can't even watch.
Ooh, that bad, huh?
Yeah, it's just I was pissed off because they were recycling matches. The thing I didn't like about the Greatest whatever, it was
it's a house show.
Yeah. So it's nothing was. I knew nothing was going to happen, and it's not the real Royal Rumble, and I'd rather just watch the real Royal Rumble because it has some purpose. I don't need to watch a million people. I mean, I guess I'd watch just the Royal Rumble just to see. I know they had rando people in there, so that would be kind of neat. But I didn't even get to that point, so I guess I'll have to do that. But then Backlash, no desire to watch Backlash because nothing's going to happen on the show. I know it's not going to happen.
All you're going to see is AJ Styles get kicked in the nuts.
Which is fine. I like that they turned Nakamura. Yeah. That made me happy. That was a good turn. That was a really good turn. anytime somebody just does that, it's nice. It makes me happy. And then Asuka and Charlotte was really, really good. But I don't know. I don't even know what they're doing anymore. They've pretty much, WWE is the weirdest company in the world. Like all this time in next building these people up, and then they just get in the main roster, and they just.
That's it.
Get it? I don't get it. Like Ember Moon. What is Ember Moon going to do on the main roster? I don't know. Nothing. There's too many women on the main roster.
Why even bring her up then?
Because she has nowhere else to go. That's the problem. WWE, too bloated. But SmackDown's going to Fox, so we'll see what happens with that.
$1 billion fucking dollars. I was talking to Matt, and I was like, you think they got a WrestleMania for that much money? Like imagine a scenario where you saw WrestleMania on Fox. What kind of sponsorship do you think they would get? What kind of ratings?
I mean, they probably get pretty big ratings. It's just
that's a lot of money to pay for SmackDown. Yeah, but it's still recognized by most people as the B show.
Not now.
No, not now. Everything changes. That they might switch rosters. You might see all your stars on SmackDown now. Fuck, they might even rename the fucking show.
And they should just leave it at SmackDown and keep AJ Styles as champion.
Oh yeah.
And it should just the problem. WWE.
We'll find out. We'll find out October of next year when they.
I don't think it's going to be a 3-hour show, so that'll be.
It can't be because it can only be 2 hours unless they start at 7:00. Having a show at 7:00 on a Friday, it's fucking lamesville, bro. But it can only be 2 hours because you have local news at 10.
They're moving it on Friday. They're moving it to Friday.
That's what I hear.
That's awful. Nothing should be on TV at Friday night.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So we'll see how that goes. All right, guys. So that is WWE Day of Reckoning for the GameCube. Overall, a very solid entry here for the GameCube. Graphics are good. Sound is decent. Controls are good. Like overall, a really solid entry. So again, if you're gonna go out and purchase this game, you get it relatively cheap, anywhere between $5 and $10 on eBay right this second. So if you're an avid wrestling video game collector like myself, again, this is definitely a game that you guys should definitely check out. So that being said, we are officially out of time. So for Luke Martin, I'm Juan.
Just one axe and it's too late. Hands in the giant.